Near the clubhouse, it seemed like somebody was walking down the path to the forest. It was so dark that I could see nothing but a blurred shadow. I wondered who could be out so late at night. A pioneer breaching discipline? I followed the mysterious shadow rapidly, but still carefully. I was moving from path to path, and after a while I found myself in the depths of the forest, finally losing sight of the stranger. Maybe I should turn back? The trees parted before me, and a magnificent view of a small forest lake struck my eyes. Whoa, okay. And then I noticed Slavya. She was skipping and fluttering about, letting her neckerchief loose and her shirt fly up in the air. This whole scene seemed even more fantastic than my own presence in this camp. Slavya looked like a spirit of the forest, or perhaps a nymph. She looked so natural, more like an ancient goddess than a human being. I remembered all the theological theories which I read some time ago. This reminded me of pantheism, the idea that God is in all that is, everything that we see around. What if it were not the aliens or a time warp, but divine providence that brought me here? Indeed, Slavya mentioned that she loves nature. So, it turns out that even she is an enigma, isn't she? Slavya went into the water. I was ashamed, but I just couldn't take my eyes off her. Silvery moonlight reflected off her wet skin, making Slavya look like an ancient Greek statue. The Venus de Milo, maybe? The scene was so fabulous that there was no room for carnal lust, only sublime admiration of true beauty. I was simply admiring the perfection of Slavya's form and forgetting everything else. Maybe this isn't hell, but heaven. A branch treacherously snapped under my foot. Slavya turned around, but there was no way to recognize me in the darkness of the night. Or at least, so it seemed. She rapidly rushed out of the lake, put on her clothes in a hurry, and vanished from sight into the forest. I quietly went after her. Slavya was quietly trailing among the trees, choosing the easiest paths and gracefully avoiding the sheared trees, pits, and snags. It was a hard job to keep pace with her. Moreover, I definitely didn't want to be caught. Firstly, peeping is just no good, and secondly, in fact, it still remains to be seen what she was doing here. I mean, you shouldn't be following her either. That ain't good either. Although it somehow seemed to be innocent enough, it didn't seem to have anything to do with my presence in this world. It was just innocent. It was nothing worth spying on, and yet here you are. At last we came out of the square. Slavya stopped and turned around to face me. Did you think I didn't notice you? I was a bit confused, but I put on a mask of visible calmness. How long ago? Not sure. Slavya came closer. 5 minutes ago, maybe. So, even there at the lake? What lake are you talking about? Well, Slavya seemed to be sincerely surprised, so I simply couldn't figure out whether she was pretending that nothing has happened or... Well, never mind. I made up my mind to behave like a gentleman, as gentlemanly as was possible in these circumstances, and said nothing. Alright. Unexpectedly easily, she agreed. A beautiful night. Slavya took a seat on a bench and looked up at the sky. I guess such nights are common here. Well, probably. Why so uncertain? I don't know. I just got lost in thought. Thinking about what? She stared at me like she was looking for something on my face, but then went back to stargazing. Now and then I fall into such a mood at night. During the day I'm wrapped up into work with no time to relax, while at night it's so quiet here. If it wasn't for the crickets and the night birds, one would feel like being face to face with the universe. For some reason I didn't think of Slavya as someone who talked about such matters. As for me, it's even too quiet here. Oh, that was supposed to be Semyon. Excuse me, why can't I click? Whatever. Is it? Yes, really. Anything wrong with that? Well? Alright. She stood up quickly and fixed her shirt. It's time to go to bed. Good night. I watched her walking away. Our talk might have been about nothing, but seems to me it had some deep and secret meaning which could appear only here, only next to Slavya. Seems like even in my situation, such moments of peace and serenity are absolutely necessary. They make me feel united with the universe. I'd say even vital, especially now. Parallel worlds, universe. Makes you think. I'm not sure how much time I spent sitting there, but after a little while I started to feel sleepy. I'll go with him. Very well. Let's better together. Are you sure? I asked Slavya in a whisper. I wanted to be sure, but she didn't answer, just smiled. I looked speechlessly at Slavya for some time. Why is she always helping me? Very good. Good luck then, both of you. We'll need it. The camp leader and the other girls said their goodbyes and went their own ways. I was quite surprised that they're treating our night walk through the forest to the abandoned camp as something normal. Well, it can't really be helped. Wait a minute, I'll bring a flashlight. A flashlight, sure. While I was waiting for Slavya, I had a strange thought. Why is she always so kind, sympathetic, and ready to help? Why did she offer to go with me to God knows where? It's always the quiet ones. Should I be concerned about her? Well, the last quiet girl turned out to be a little different, so I'm back. With a smile, Slavya gave me a flashlight. Shall we go? From what Electronic told us, the old building was built right after the war. It looked like a kindergarten, like a barracks I expected. Definitely could hold less pioneers than today's camp. It had been abandoned for about 20 years. It was now totally dark. It seemed like the forest was as afraid of us as we were of it. Trees politely moved away, grouping at the sides of the path and patiently watching us. An owl hooted somewhere far away, but more quietly than usual. I wasn't afraid walking next to Slavya. Probably in any other situation, even in the real world, I would be too scared to go into a forest without a proper path. But I tried to get rid of these thoughts. Although it was strange, Slavya probably soothed my self-preservation instincts and my sense of reality was blunted. Yeah, there's a psychological explanation for that, but I forgot what it was. If it continues this way, I'll jump towards some beast with a smile on my face. You're not afraid at all, are you? Meaning? Slavya turned around and looked at me, smiling in a strange way, either with misunderstanding or with gentle mockery. Or maybe I was just seeing things. In this camp, you're rarely just seeing things. Well, night, the forest, the old camp. Yes, it sort of gives me the chills. Just sort of? Are you afraid? No, well, yes, but it's a natural human reaction in this kind of situation. I didn't want to show my fear, but I wasn't really scared. I just felt that being scared is what I should be in a situation like this. It was like my body had stopped producing antibodies to fight against an infection. I was scared, not by the night forest, but by the fact that I was reacting to everything that was happening in the wrong way. That is some deep introspection. On the other hand, I didn't want to make a fool of myself. Now we wouldn't want that. I see. Slavya smiled again and continued walking. The path, surrounded by trees and bushes, was becoming more narrow. The deeper we went into the forest, the less clearly we could see the moon. For a moment, clouds hid the moon and everything was submerged into almost pitch black darkness. I closed my eyes tight, and when I opened them, the moon had taken its place again and painted the world in the bright white colors of its night shroud. I only just realized how much I hate the dark. Finally, a clear space appeared far away ahead, and a minute later we were standing at the edge of a forest glade. There was a ramshackle old camp building, eroded by rain, rust, and beetles. It smiled at us with broken windows like a gap-toothed mouth. A silent rebuke from the dead to the living could be read in this smile. A cemetery fog clouded the whole glade, so ghosts, ghouls, zombies, devils, and other evil entities seemed to loom from the haze. The sight was enough to give the average person a heart attack, or at least a panic attack. If Slavya hadn't taken my hand, I surely wouldn't have been able to stand it. It won't be as scary this way. She smiled. I couldn't say anything else, just grasped her hand tightly. What am I even doing here? Looking for Shirk at night in the forest? Here? How could I ever agree? There's not a single normal person who would... But the world around me can't be really called normal. I tried to persuade myself that I was finding answers, and that it can't really get any worse. To be honest, nothing bad had actually happened to me during the last 4 days in this camp. Besides, I had no special reason to think that something bad would happen. Maybe it's just the way the world works. People can't live without adventures. Shall we go? Yes, I guess. But we didn't make a move. Slavya seemed to be waiting for me to take the first step, but I had just enough courage to stand still without running away. The moon showed up from behind the clouds again and lit up the old camp building. Now it less looked like a tomb, but all dead pictures in my imagination grew real. Visions of ghosts became more focused, the wailing of the wind and the grass rustling got clearer, noises of the unknown origin could be heard from afar. Seems like it was a great place before. I looked at Slavya carefully. Maybe she was scared, but she was trying to hide it. Knowing that, I felt a little better and calmer. Maybe. Let's go? Sure. I stepped carefully, watching every step, trying not to touch the old fence, the crooked merry-go-round, or the rusty slide. In some places the grass was waist high, so any wrong move could lead to broken legs or hands. At last we came to the entrance and I pointed my flashlight inside. The darkness that looked back at me was much scarier than the view outside. At least the moon shone brightly there. I gathered up all my courage and crossed the threshold. The inside of the old camp building looked like a kindergarten from my childhood. The layout of the interior, even the rotten furniture, was similar. Well, I shivered, picking up more and more remains of the joy of children long gone with the flashlight. Creepy. Slavya was not only holding my hand by now, but embracing it, firmly pressing herself against me. However, I didn't sense fear in her voice. I wonder whether it was a good idea to come here in the middle of the night. Perhaps not. Shall we go back then? No, what about Shurik? She said in genuine astonishment. Well, Shurik, why did he even come here in the first place? Maybe he isn't even here. Where else could he be? I don't know, eaten by wolves maybe? Don't say that. Slavya frowned and stepped away from me. I was already so used to being with her that I was slightly upset by her reproach. Okay, let's assume that there are no wolves. Though you can never be sure. Well, since we're here, let's search. We searched all the rooms of the old camp. Playrooms, bedrooms, canteen, kitchens, and toilets. I even looked into the closet, which was choked with empty, decayed cardboard boxes. Look! When we returned to the place we started from, Slavya picked up something from the floor and gave it to me. It was an old doll with torn, frayed threads, missing a hand and an eye, faded from damp. So what? I pity it. What? This doll? Yes. Why would you pity it? Someone played with her, then just threw her away and forgot about her. She's been here all alone all these years, in the rain, in the cold. Story of my life. I couldn't really tell if Slavya was being serious or not. I don't think this is the time to think about such things. On the other hand, what would be the proper time for that? Slavya looked really upset. Yes, maybe. I took the doll and examined it. I remember how I once found the stuffed lion the same way that Slavya just found this doll. I took him home, washed him. I was as careful with him as with other toys, even though he was long past his retirement age. You should give it to Uliana. Slavya laughed. Suddenly the wind howled down the passage, singing some kind of eerie tune. A light flashed and I instinctively jumped, caught my leg on something and tumbled to the floor. You're right. Slavya ran over to me and helped me get up. Yes, more or less. I tripped on a trap door. It's strange that we hadn't even noticed it already. The dirt around the door was cleared. It seemed like it was open not too long ago. We're not going down there, are we? I asked, trying to preempt Slavya's suggestion. She only gave me a sad glance. Come on, are we playing at diggers now? I moaned, while lifting the hatch cover with quite an effort. My common sense was crying out, telling me I shouldn't do this. But contrarily, my logic suggested that if this world wanted to kill me, I'd already be dead. But it's only because of Slavya, otherwise there's no way I would go down there. 2 meters of a rusty metal ladder led down to a dirty concrete floor. I leaned over the edge and illuminated a narrow passage, going somewhere into the darkness. And what is there? I think I heard about a bomb shelter under the old camp. A bomb shelter? Well, that's pretty logical considering the time it was built. Why would Shirk need to go there? I don't know. Of course, it wasn't necessarily him who opened the hatch, and it's obvious that someone had opened it just recently, but who would be more likely to get the idea of going down there than a mad inventor? If we discard theories of supernatural involvement, there can be no other humans in this forest. At least that's what I've thought. Alright, I'll go first. Then if everything is fine, you follow me. What might not be fine? Slavya looked scared, but seemed to ask more out of politeness. Well, I don't know. Rats, for example. Are you afraid of rats? Guess I shouldn't have asked. I sighed deeply and began to descend. We advanced slowly, holding hands. In the pitch darkness, the flashlight was not helping much. Only occasionally it would illuminate pieces of old newspapers and scrap metal lying here and there. Suddenly it began to feel as if the walls and the ceiling, covered in endless twisting cords, were pressing in on me, as if the passage was getting narrower. I spread my arms, trying to measure the passage's width. Are we still far off? Asked Slavya sadly. Far from where? I've got no clue. Alright. Just then a massive metal door appeared before me as if from nowhere. Oh, cried Slavya softly. I tried the handle, and it seemed to yield a bit. You ready? Not sure. Though speaking frankly, what could you prepare for in such a situation? The wheel turned a few times, squeaking horribly, then finally reached its limit and went quiet. I pulled on the door with all my weight, and it reluctantly opened. There was some sort of chamber behind it, which turned out to be the bomb shelter itself. When we entered, the lights suddenly went on, making me flinch. Though it was likely that there was an independent power source here. At the time when these catacombs had been dug, people had been building things to last. The bomb shelter looked exactly like what I imagined. It had everything needed to sustain prolonged human existence during a war. The lockers contained chemical protection suits, gas masks, dry rations, and water cans. At the far wall, I noticed a lot of various tools, pressure meters, radiation meters, a radio, and some others. However, this place looked like nobody has ever used it, which was not actually that surprising. Furthermore, it looked like nobody had even entered it after it was built. Slavya gave me a questioning look. Well, Shurk is definitely not here. But was he? No idea, but if he was here, he couldn't just vanish. I looked around the room again and noticed another door in the wall to my left. Maybe there? However, the door wouldn't open. What if he barred it from the other side? But why? I don't know. Still, it was quite possible, assuming he was there at all. By the look of things, Shurk was hiding, maybe running from someone. Such thoughts made me uneasy, and I felt like putting myself on the other side of the door as fast as I could. I pushed hard, but the door only gave a dull creak. Here, maybe this could work. Slavya handed me a crowbar. I fumbled with it, considering how I could better tackle the door. Let's give it a try. Using all my strength, I managed to pull the door off its hinges, and it crashed onto the floor. While I was recovering from my effort, Slavya pointed the flashlight down the newly opened passage. There's a corridor here, just the same as the previous one. Jeez, this place is a real maze. Shall we go? Hold on. I sat down on a bunk, took a dusty pillowcase off a pillow and wiped my forehead. Let me catch my breath. Slavya sat down next to me and began to study the details of the floor tile patterns. Better turn off the flashlight for now. Oh, yes. She blushed slightly and clicked the switch off. It's just plain creepy. I caught myself thinking that I have not been treating these events as real for the last half an hour. As if they had not been happening to me, as if they were just a dream. And that's something he keeps saying a lot, through the different stories and routes. Just like back then, 4 days ago, in the first minutes after I found myself here. Yes, lately I might have started getting used to this world, this reality, as it has become reality for me. And that feeling deep in my soul that I had to find an exit was not so acute anymore. But now again, in a blink of an eye, the forest, the old camp, and the bomb shelter. There was absolutely nothing supernatural about any of it, but neither was it anything normal, like anything from my previous life. Yes? Agreed Slavya. Don't you find any of this strange? What exactly? Well, the fact that we are sitting here, just you and me in the night. Wouldn't it be normal in such a situation to instead wait till morning and call the police? Yes, I guess so, she replied thoughtfully. Of course, I almost volunteered. Shouldn't have. Well, almost isn't quite right, but still. But you just wanted to help. If Shirk is here, we should find him as soon as possible. At this rate, we'll be the ones they're looking for. You know, he did manage to get lost here. Slavya looked frustrated. Alright, I didn't mean anything like that. Maybe he's not here. Maybe he actually went back to the camp a long time ago. Yes, maybe. But we should still check, right? Of course. Slavya got up and held out her hand to me. It seemed she wasn't as afraid as me. Though I was already tired of being scared myself and now only wanted all of this to end as soon as possible. Whoa, did I mess things up? No. This corridor was identical to the other one which we came through to get to the bomb shelter. I was walking at a slow pace, carefully watching the floor and checking from time to time whether the passage was getting narrower. Look! Slavya held my hand tighter and pointed at a breach in the middle of the tunnel. It was wide enough for a man to climb through or to fall down. Maybe... I pointed the light down, but there seemed to be nothing but ground at the bottom. I think we should check this out. The hole was shallow enough for us to climb out afterwards, so at first sight there was nothing to be afraid of. I climbed down carefully and helped Slavya. We found ourselves in some kind of mine. The walls and the ceiling were reinforced by wooden beams and the rails stretched out into the distance. Here and there the earth pressing down against this fragile design broke through the boards, which were rotting with age. It made the whole structure look a bit unreliable. Where do you think we are? Don't know, some kind of mine. What could they have mined here? Coal, perhaps? Perhaps. We started to advance slowly. Stones would treacherously shift under our feet now and then. The beam coming from the flashlight trembled and jumped from one wall to the other, often casting shapeless shadows which disappeared as soon as the light was pointed at them. Scarier here than above. Guess so. The further we went, the stronger my confidence became that Shirk had absolutely nothing to do with this place. He couldn't have been taken by a chupacabra, could he? You guys have those in Russia? Alright, we can't rule out that possibility either. At last we came to a fork in the tunnel. Where do we go now? I don't know. I tried to inject at least some semblance of calm into my voice, but I really had no clue. None at all. Not where to go, not where Shirk was, not even why we were here. What if we get lost? Yeah, right. Let's leave a mark that we have already been here. I picked up a rather large stone and carefully carved out a cross on one of the logs supporting the ceiling. There. Now we'll know that we have already passed this spot. Good. Slavya smiled. So, which way? To tell the truth, I was so tired of wandering around this mine that I had completely stopped thinking about Shirk. I only wanted to find an exit as soon as possible. What's behind it? We're just about to find it out. Past the door there was a small chamber, which looked either like the utility room of a boiler house or like one of the bomb shelter's rooms. The floor was littered with empty bottles and the walls were painted with a massive graffiti, which meant that other people had more than once visited this place before us. Although from the look of things, they had done so rather long ago. I was running the flashlight's beam around the room, trying to check every part of it. Suddenly, I found Shurik curled up in a corner. "Shurik!" cried Slavya. However, it looked as if he was not paying any attention to us. "Here you are. We've been looking for you all night. Why in the world did you come here?" Shurik looked up at me with hazy, unseeing eyes. "And who are you?" "What do you mean, who are you? Get up already, let's go." "I'm not going anywhere with you." Shurik turned away and stared into the darkness again. "You want to trick me again? You'll make me go in circles through the tunnels, won't you?" "Yes, you will. I know for what you are. I know you for what you are." Shurik's voice turned into an infernal whisper. "Cut this nonsense out already." I wanted to approach him and pull him upright, but Slavya stopped me. "He's not quite himself." "Well, I'm not quite myself either. You wander here all night. You sure won't be quite yourself." She shook her head reproachfully and slowly went up to Shurik while carefully staying in the light. "It's alright. It's me, Slavya." "For real?" Shurik looked at her and immediately started sobbing quietly. "Of course, who else could it be? And that's Semyon with me. We came to find you. Everything's fine now." "You're really not them?" "Certainly not. We're us." He tried to get up, but he was apparently disoriented, would have fallen over if not for Slavya, who caught him by the arm. "Easy there. Careful." When they came up to me, I said, "Alright, time to get out of here." "We can't go back." "Back where? Into the mine?" "Yes." Shurik was speaking calmly, but at the same time his voice was trembling slightly. "Why is that?" "It's where they are." "Who are they?" "The voices." "Okay, I wanted to address something. Voices. Is it the other Semyons? Because near the end of Separate Ways, near the end of the last episode, Lena mentions that a boy, a pioneer she didn't know, told him that a certain cell phone belonged to Semyon. And it didn't say it outright, but I think it was more than implied, it was more than suggested that that boy was another Semyon, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the evil Semyon that kept mocking him throughout the story. So I wonder if these voices that Shurik hears in the mine, in the tunnels, are the other Semyons or belong to the evil one. Why would he mess with him though? Although he did seem completely out of it, so maybe he just doesn't need a reason to mess with Shurik. Maybe he's just being one hell of a jerk. I don't know. What voices? I was starting to lose my patience. This place and this situation certainly weren't normal, but if there had been anything paranormal here, then by the laws of horror cinema, it should have long since showed its face by now. Calm down, Shurik. Just tell us everything in detail. He took a few deep breaths and started. I needed some spare parts for the robot, and I heard that there was a bomb shelter in the old camp, and there's usually a lot of different equipment in bomb shelters. It's old, of course, but worth disassembling. You can always find coils, resistors. So I went early in the morning. I thought I could finish quickly and get back by breakfast. I got everything I needed. He took some light bulbs and wires out of his pocket and showed them to us. But then, up there in the bomb shelter, I heard some sounds from behind the door, something like moans or wailing. At first I got scared, but then I thought that a person could be in danger, so I went there. Although, it could also be the ghost of the old camp leader that killed herself. Vengeful spirits and that kind of thing, that could also be it. And here was this mine, this damn maze. It got completely lost. The voices always telling me something, sometimes shouting, sometimes whispering, and I could never make out the words. He was ready to burst into tears, but Slavya patted him gently on the head and Shura continued. Anyway, I found this room. At least here you can't hear them. So you decided to sit and wait for rescue, like in a B film? I asked sarcastically. Semyon, chill. Slavya shot an angry glance at me. Well, in any case, it's time to get out. If there are no objections, come, I know a shortcut. A shortcut? Yeah, I walked all over this place. Alright. Shura did not lie. Indeed, after wandering for just about 2 minutes in the mine, we found ourselves under a grate, through which we could see the sky. Then why don't you get out yourself? Try it, you'll see. I pulled myself up and pulled on the grate a few times. It's true, you can't break it just like that. Gotta use something heavy. I looked down at Slavya and Shura. Try the flashlight, maybe? The flashlight. I fumbled with it. It was not one of those cheap Chinese fakes from the 90s, which I used to have a lot of in our summer cottage. No, it was a real Soviet durable metal flashlight. Was that a shot at the Chinese? Because I know Russia and China have a bit of a rivalry going on. Not a hammer, of course, but if I tried hard enough. I swung it and started smashing at the gate, aiming for the spots where it was attached to the wall. Soon I got lucky. I heard cracking sounds and a few bolts fell down. A minute later I was lying on the grass under the monument and breathing in the fresh night air with delight. Although after the mine any air would seem fresh. Well then, I'll be going. Thank you. Shura looked a bit lost. I eyed him questioningly for a bit, but ended up saying nothing and just waved my hand for a goodbye. After all, I had neither the strength nor the will to talk to him. What would I say to him? Scolding him now is no use, and the same probably goes for trying to learn anything. What a night. Slavya was sitting next to me and looking dreamingly at the moon. Right so. Someone told me just a week ago that I would go to a pioneer camp and would even have to crawl through bomb shelters. But it was fun. In a way. There was indeed something amusing about all of this. But there was also something strange. During the last few hours, absolutely anything could have happened to me, but in the end, nothing at all had happened. In a couple of years, I would probably remember this just as a funny incident from childhood. If I live that long. What do you think? Did he really hear something there? I don't know. It's possible, of course. Most likely it was just his imagination. In such a situation, anyone could start imagining things. That was not only the most logical explanation, but also the most probable one. Because nothing had happened to me in Slavya. Well, I for one think he should go see a psychiatrist. Guess he should, laughed Slavya. Alright, time to go to bed. I felt like I needed to say something to Slavya. I was not so sure that I wanted to, but I could feel the need. Thank you. For what? She gave me a surprised look. I wouldn't have managed without you. It was nothing. Slavya blushed. I was in her debt. Again. I wonder how I could repay her, at least partially, for all that she has done for me. I stared at the night sky, slowly falling asleep. All of today's adventures left me so tired that I had no more strength left. You know, under different circumstances, I would have surely confessed my love to you, I said, losing touch with reality. Thoughts usually work much faster than common sense. But Slavya wasn't there anymore. It's probably for the best. At least she didn't hear. Though it's strange. Why did she leave without saying goodbye? Well, whatever. I'll sleep on it and see you in the morning. I was so tired that I barely made it to the camp leader's cabin. But there was a light in the window. That means she's waiting for me. And that in turn means that I'm in for a lecture again. And this time it would just be as pointless as ever. I had absolutely no desire to discuss whether I was right or wrong. The deck chair standing nearby was beckoning to me like a friend, as if suggesting I should sleep in it, forgetting about the mind shirk, the camp leader. Oh dear. Here you are, I said blankly, still looking at my cherished deck chair. Semyon. Yeah. We found Shirk. Slavya will give you the details tomorrow, and now I'd really like to sleep. She looked at me confusedly for a moment and then replied, Oh, well, fine. I don't know if mentioning Slavya played its role, but half a minute later I was already in my bed. The events of the day kept turning over for a short while in my head, but soon it started to ache as if my consciousness switched to safe mode and started to reboot. You guys know something? I haven't had breakfast yet. I'm hungry. I'm really interested in where Slavya has gone. Though I also wanted to leave this place as fast as possible. And if not to finally lie down to sleep, then at the very least to spend some time alone, away from all these pioneers in Olga Dmitrievna, who just couldn't wait to occupy me with something again. I'm losing my voice. I picked a good moment and fled into the forest. Night had fallen onto the camp. An absolutely normal and unremarkable night. One of those nights when the dark sky, stars, or crescent moon don't trigger any special emotions, when the crickets chirping and the singing of the night birds seem more like an everyday routine than a nocturnal course. I wandered around the forest with no special purpose, trying not to get too far from the camp. After all, there was a chance to meet Uliana out there, and that natural disaster would probably be even worse than the camp leader. I sat down on a fallen tree and started thinking. Why is this all happening to me? Why do I keep getting myself into foolish situations every time and everywhere? Even having suddenly appeared in a weird pioneer camp in the middle of nowhere, I don't get to become a subject in an experiment, a victim of a sick cosmic mind, or a participant in an intergalactic war on the side of a group of suicide-prone pacifists, like a regular hero of science fiction. No, I get to hide in the night forest from a raving camp leader and her workhorse pioneers. The stars in the sky were shining brightly. Perhaps they give their light not only to me in this camp, but also shine on the city where I was born and where my old home is. It was as if a pain settled in my chest. I envisioned my old flat clearly, and a detestable burning started making its way from my stomach to my throat. It was not wistfulness, more like a sad reminiscence. Because despite all that's happened, I felt more alive in less than 5 days here than I had for the last several years there. Now I really wasn't sure if I wanted to go back. When one question still ate at me, how and why I ended up here. It flared up yet again in my mind. I haven't spent much time seeking answers or even just thinking about my situation lately. My thoughts were occupied with everyday routine affairs. And now, in order to break away and be able to wish to stay here for good, I need to understand the nature of this place. It's just that even a nightingale in a golden cage has a right to know how and by whose will he got in there. And after that, to make the choice whether to stay or not. Probably I would have been lost in my existential thoughts for a long time, but I heard voices approaching. Olga Dmitrievna and the pioneers. Looks like they're proceeding with their hike. I headed to the camp at a fast pace. I have no desire to go back to the camp leader's cabin because I would surely be scolded, and just waiting for it is much worse. Soon enough I arrived at the beach. And I wasn't alone here. A pioneer uniform was lying on the sand. A girl's one. But no one seemed to be swimming in the water. I almost thought it was some new devilry when suddenly a voice came from behind. Skipping out on a hike? Thought you were still in the woods. I turned around and saw Slavya in a bikini. Sorry, guess I interrupted you. That's okay, I'm almost done. Why did you decide to have a swim in them during the night? Oh, well, is it prohibited? She smiled. Well, no. It's just, won't Olga Dmitrievna mind you leaving early? But you did the same? Slavya gave me a quick glance. Yeah, I did. I sat down on the sand and stared at the river. You didn't like the hike, did you? No, it's not that. I just wanted to be alone for some time. I've interrupted you. No, not really. That's not like you at all. What are you talking about? Well, to leave like that. Well, I'm not a robot that can only act according to a predefined program. She laughed. Yeah, that's right. I was still puzzled, and my fatigue was also becoming stronger and stronger. My mind was absolutely blank. To be precise, it was so heavy and full that not even a single idea would have the chance to dwell there. If I would compare my brain at its prime to a broad highway full of speeding thoughts over it. I remember this from a previous playthrough. I skipped it and I'm skipping it again. So I said the first thing that crossed my mind. Don't you think it's all pretty strange here? Strange? Everything that happens here. It's the ideal model of a pioneer camp. Of course, it's not like I know a lot about them, but it looks like exactly like I imagined it. What are you talking about? Slavya glanced at me perplexedly. Did you ever feel that you're not where you belong? I don't know. More precisely, not where you are meant to be at all. As if thousands of kilometers away from home, or even in another galaxy. I don't understand you. We're similar in this. I laid down on my back and looked at the stars. What would you think if I told you that I'm an alien from the future? Are you? Asked Slavya in dead earnest. Well, let's assume I am. How should I return to my time? Do you really want to? Yeah, all the conversation with her that have to do with my situation, even the slightest hints of it, always end up at the same place. It's like she's offering me a chance to stay, almost insisting on it. Well, let's say that I'm not sure. There, as we could call it, everything is like home to me, or rather more familiar. Practically everything is known to me and I'm prepared for any situation. And here it's the other way around. Literally every little thing comes as a surprise. And everything's different. Is it really that bad? I wouldn't call it bad. Unfamiliar, unclear. Sometimes it can be hard to change something, especially for people with my personality. But what do you really want? To start with, I can't answer that question until I find out exactly where here is. Go and find out. If only it was that easy. But what's so difficult about it? Everything's difficult. I don't even know where to start. And I'm constantly being distracted. You are talking about it so seriously, it's almost like it's all real. She laughed. Who knows? A pretty long silence followed. Suddenly Slavya sneezed. Bless you. Thanks. It wasn't a good idea to swim at night. You could get ill. Hurry to your cabin. It's cold out here. It's nothing. I'd rather sit here with you a bit more. Now just let me dress. Well, I was certainly flattered, but... Let's go. I'll walk with you. I'll walk you. But we didn't even walk a dozen steps before Slavya grasped my arm. What's the matter? Oh, I suddenly felt dizzy. I touched her forehead. It was burning. I was never able to measure body temperatures by touch, but in this case it was obvious. I told you. Achoo. Come on, come on. No, I can infect Xenia. Listen, we better go to the infirmary. And what would you do in the infirmary at night alone? That's nonsense. No, it's not nonsense. You don't want to help, I'll go by myself. She let go of my hand and was ready to leave. Don't get upset. Put this on, it's cold. I handed her my sweater, which I brought with me on the hike. Finally found some use for it. Good boy. Thanks. She pulled the sweater on and gave me such a tender and caring look. I just couldn't argue with her anymore. Okay, fine. The infirmary it is, as you say. 5 minutes later, we were standing by the infirmary door and Slavya was picking out the right key. I still considered this quite foolish. Nobody ever died from the common cold. Is that where this is heading? At least not in the past century. I couldn't see any good reason to spend the night in the infirmary. Well, we shall soon find out. Because I am going to leave it here and we'll check out the Yeah, we'll check out the bad ending and the good ending in the next episode. So until next time, thank you.